Ubisoft recently invited me to spend 7 hours playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I always wondered how big you needed to be to play an Assassin's Creed game early. And now I know. The ultimate stealthy, stabby Viking fantasy simulator that releases on November 10th, Anno Domini 2020. I'm excited to say that when the light hits the hills of England just right, you can almost smell the salt in the air, the musk of the unwashed bodies, and the stink of the countless corpses left in your wake. Here's 11 ways that Assassin's Creed Valhalla makes you feel like a Viking. You're rolling across England in your longboat with your boys and you come across a monastery. That's when the bells start ringing and the torches start swinging. Offload your gang and get to looting, chopping anyone that gets in your way, because you know there's nothing more Viking than the forcible redistribution of a nation's wealth. And yes, you can do that thing you all wanted to know if you could do. Though they bugger off as soon as you hit the beaches and move like cheetahs, so it's hard to pick off more than a few of them. But know if you kill 3, the game will get fed up with your bloodthirsty shenanigans. I only came across 2 monasteries and a few forts in my time playing the game, as I was limited to inland Mercia, but with the rivers absolutely covered up in potential targets, it's clear that pillaging will be the fastest way to acquire the resources needed to upgrade your arms and armor. This same armor upgrade system returns from Assassin's Creed Origin and Odyssey and is fed by your ill-gotten gains, which will also be very necessary to ensure the upgrade and prosperity of your new personal Norse settlement. To succeed, just knock in a few helmets and loot anything not bolted to the ground. Speaking of which, the combat system continues in the recent RPG Witcher-esque style, with a wide variety of Viking weapons and the ability to dual wield to your heart's content or just hit things with a very big axe. You level up through a very extensive tree that reminds me of Path of Exile, with boosts either to direct combat, stealth, or archery. They're all connected in a giant web and loop back around into each other, so you don't have to feel constrained to one playstyle. Each has their own benefits, and with a certain amount of canoodling, yes, you can create some truly silly broken builds. But that is half the fun of this style of game. I can't say too much about how the combat feels, as the demo was from a streamed platform that forced me to use the truly god-awful default control scheme, which binds attack buttons to the triggers. The 2 previous games did have the option to switch to the Witcher / Ghost of Tsushima / every other RPG style, allowing me to switch back to using the face buttons like the great unwashed heathen buffalo that I am. Nothing says Viking like alcohol consumption in such vast quantities that even a German might blink twice. Besides the ability to walk into any lord's hall and hoist a cup of mead, Ubisoft has made sure to include the classic game of who can drink 3 horns of ale the fastest. It's a timed event and occasionally you lose your balance and you have to right yourself to keep from falling on your keister. Your goal is to reach the bottom of your horns faster than your opponent. And I lost my bout against a woman half my size, but it was worth it to stumble around afterwards like a drunken sailor. Note though that this is the world's shortest buzz and will wear off after about 10 to 15 seconds. Drinking is such an integral part of the culture, it even appears as a gag in the main quest line, leading to a night of drunken debauchery and missing an important ceremony the next morning. And I've no doubt that it continues to play a prominent part in the unfolding story. Because when it comes to Viking drinking parties, you can't spell Gebroskipi without... Actually, I can't spell that. But I kid you not, it means beer ship, which is like fellowship, but with alcohol. You ever want to call someone a punk-ass bitch but still sound classy about it? That's Flyting. It's a rap battle without the backing beat, and even includes hype men just so you'll know when you've thoroughly roasted your opponent's chestnuts. I'll admit I was skeptical of these poetry battles when they were first announced, but they were delightful to actually play in-game. You begin, as any proper Viking game should, by betting large amounts of money on your own awesomeness. Your opponent then throws out an insulting rhyme, and you get a short time to decide between 3 options to reply with. So read quickly and pick the best rhyming response to flatten your opponent. I don't have any footage of what it looks like when you fail, because I frankly refuse to let this smirking chump smack talk me. Win, and you'll further fatten your purse, as well as increase your charisma score. High enough charisma unlocks additional dialogue options in later quest battles, so you can talk yourself out of some potentially sticky situations. Sail along the mighty rivers of England. Raise your sails, lower your sails, raise your sails again. Crash into the shore, get your boat turned around so sideways that it's a comedy bit from Austin Powers. Then finally give up and hold A to just follow the river and enjoy the sights with the cinematic mode engaged. Take in the picturesque English countryside, explore the fjords of Norway, or if you don't like that, you can always just sail to America, as somehow it's included in this already sprawling world. Rivers are a necessary addition to the game map, and the way they crisscross England allows you a permanent superhighway to access your next quest objective. My only complaint is the way the boat handles. Directly imported from previous games, it likely performs great in open waters, but leaves something to be desired in confined spaces. Even on your newly scaled down and sleekened longboat, I find it hard to take some of the corners at full speed. Sure, I could have slowed down, but I'm playing a Viking, dammit, and brakes are for simpering milksops. It seems the designers here want you to use the follow river command at all times, as its speed is tuned for the AI autopilot, and woe be to anyone that gets in the AI's way. It wouldn't be a Ubisoft game without enough in-game collectibles to choke a map and test even the most ardent trophy hunter's resolve. For Valhalla though, Ubisoft has taken the more is more approach, by diversifying the types you're seeking and tying direct and obvious benefits to attaining them. I've personally never been completely sold on the new RPG elements of the Assassin's Creed series, but here it does play nicely with the collecting system by awarding you additional stats and bonuses, as well as hidden techniques and snazzy armors. Remember the shanty pages from Black Flag? Well, they're back in here as well, but as tattoo designs this time, and all of them look badass. So get ready for more facial tattoos than a Post Malone concert. There's even a new Roman artifacts collection where you collect ancient statues to redecorate your Great Hall, because nothing says rustic country chic like a giant marble wang hanging over your dinner table. Make a name for yourself in the sagas, meet historic figures, enjoy humorous anecdotes about how they received their well-known monikers.
Called me boneless because I move like a reed in the wind.
Sure, this flies in the face of 1,000 years of Norse storytelling tradition, but hey, it's still better than Vikings on the Hysteria channel. The main quest will have you playing the Game of Thrones to help well-known warlords like the Sons of Ragnar topple kingdoms and put their own puppets in place, which does sound a bit aggressive now that I've said it aloud. The game does try and make it seem like the existing King of Mercia, Burgred, was a complete shitheel, but to their credit, the guy you put in his place, Ceolwulf, or Ceolwulf as they pronounce it in-game, isn't actually much better. In fact, as you murder your way through hundreds of Saxons protecting their homes and families, the game does its level best to sideskirt the obvious question of, are you playing the baddies? I know that during one quest I decided that yes I was, and shot the ferryman running away with the princess I was chasing because screw that guy in particular, I didn't want to do a chase sequence. And then later I beat her kingly husband into unconsciousness with my bare hands because I could. I'm curious to see what happens as you work your way down to Wessex with this devil-take-all mentality. As for those not in the know, the Vikings eventually lose this fight. But in the meantime, you can satiate your palate for destruction by ping-ponging from question mark to question mark on the map and discover all the random encounters the game has to offer. Yes, there are side quests, and yes, this one involves a particularly kinky romantic encounter that had me rolling in my chair. And yes, I will post it in its entirety later. Besides the fun reference to the Lewis Chessman here, a sort of Viking game does appear in Valhalla. Here it's called Orlog, named after the Viking concepts of fate and destiny. The game as presented here is not purely historical, but there's few things a Norseman love more than to rattle a sack and toss out some dice. It reminded me of the minigame from the first Witcher, except with battling elements that made me want to throw my dice into my opponent and then run off with anything of value. If you've ever stumbled your way across the Northumbrian countryside, you'll have seen a stacked stone cairn. These buggers are everywhere and multiply like rabbits. They were used by Vikings and Saxons and Romans and basically everyone to mark trails, headstones, battle sites, and basically pass time, because what else are you going to do when you're intoxicated in a land covered in billions of stackable glacial rocks? When I encountered this little Viking activity in my own game, I couldn't get the balance right and it immediately fell over, which was too real for me, so I went back to pillaging. While I didn't personally encounter this one, it's exactly the sort of thing I wish I had, as the game lets you consume mind-altering hallucinogenics and then trip balls across England. Having consumed your magic mushrooms, you'll chase seals through magic portals and possibly even visit distant sacred lands like Jotunheim and Asgard. Mind you, that last bit hasn't been confirmed. I mean, the places have, but not how you get there. But it would be one hell of a way to work them into the game, because Valhalla seems to take its religion seriously. And Ivar, the character you're playing, believes in the gods, so expect to interact with them. When you wander into an area where someone has made a blood curse and set up a fetish, the air around you becomes so oppressive it smokes and chokes you, and you are left to lift its cursed pall. Which is all to say that the feeling of Norse beliefs and practices here is very much on show. As well these beliefs should be, since you're not just a ravaging monster in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. You're an explorer, a warrior, a trader, and most importantly, a settler. The Vikings don't get nearly enough credit for creating trading outposts on the tits end of the world. I mean, who else would dare eke out an existence in Iceland, or Greenland, or God forbid, Massachusetts? Your settlement is your purpose in England in this game, to carve out a new home for yourself by force and feat of arms. One lap around it and you'll see familiar Viking architecture and an entire town full of people doing the most mundane things. Nobody is throwing axes at each other, and there's not even any death metal playing. Instead, there's storytelling and the faint hint of lute, harp, and pipes on the wind, which is to say, this is about as real Viking as it gets. I can't wait to see how much I can expand this settlement, as I'm a base builder junkie in these games. What new shops can be unlocked? Can I add specific trophies and decorations to my Great Hall? Will the carpet match the drapes? Who knows, but I sure intend to find out come November 10th. In the meantime, I want to thank Ubisoft for allowing me to preview it, and to mention that I have at least 2 more videos with my gameplay footage coming down the pipe. The first will be the one quest that I came across that had me rolling with laughter, and the second will be a look at the historical accuracy of what I've seen in the game so far. Spoiler, it's a mixed bag, but its heart is in the right place. Thank you guys all for watching and making this channel and this preview possible, and I look forward to bringing you more content in the years to come.